I have a very lasting memory of my mother as a loving and affectionate mother with a fine tune for detail as a typical medical doctor that she was, and also the humility of a saint.
The relationship between Auntie Lois and Mummy and Daddy started from St. Xavier's College, and it continued when Mum and she became doctors and decided to start a clinic in Lower Parel.
He encouraged her to work outside. He always felt that she was educated enough and didn't have to work in the house.
The bonds have been so strong that even though they didn't meet for years on end, when they met, it was like they had never been away from each other. They've even travelled when they were 70 years old down south together and had a whale of a time. We grew up hearing about Auntie Lois, and the relationship has continued even now. 100 years that we went to celebrate 100 years in Panvel where she's staying, and she still refers to my parents as Kush and Ida and still remembers them. We are very lucky to have Auntie Lois around.
My mother, I think, was my best friend. I grew up with her. My father was in the army and was posted out most of the time. I grew up with Mummy, and I remember Mummy going into the villages as a doctor and taking me along. It was exciting, and it was a novelty to be travelling around with her. My dad was posted to Pundraghat in 1952, and Mummy, being a doctor, worked in the welfare centre. Over a period of time, she realized that she would like to do something else for the children of the farmers around Pundraghat. So she decided to start a small school.
This all started actually when my father was posted to GRD in Gorakhpur for the recruitment of workers into the Indian Army. There was a small school, a Hindi school being run in the camp, which was to teach the children and families of the Nepalese, teach them Hindi. So my father thought, why not forge a bond between the local community and the Nepalese by starting a school for them. With this idea in mind, he asked my mother if she would be interested. And there was a Mr. J.P. Srivastav who was teaching Hindi in the school, and he requested him to come and help Mummy with the school.
At the second of the tenure of Colonel Kushal Thapa, both of them, Ms. Thapa and Colonel Thapa, wanted to continue with the school, which is not possible. So they had a desire to open their own school, and the same planning started, and presently the GRD school principal was Mr. J.P. Srivastava, whom Mrs. Neena Thapa knew closely while she was in GRD Pundraghat as a first lady. She initiated a number of activities and the various welfare measures for the ex-servicemen, Jawans, their families and their children. While Colonel Thapa was posted out from GRD Pundraghat, Dr. Neena decided to stay put there in Gorakhpur and for a couple of years with their children. She took a house in Golghar area and she started a clinic there itself where she used to treat poor people free of cost.
Field Marshal Manekshaw was christened Sam Bahadur by the Gurkhas. He was very fond of the Gurkha regiment and very fond of my father Colonel Kushal Singh Thapa and my mother Neena Thapa. Field Marshal Manekshaw would come on his official visits. He would often drop into the house unannounced to visit us. With a hearty greeting to my mom, Neena, he would say, "Kastocha, Ramro," and my mother would always welcome him with a smile. My mother Neena was a doctor, so was his favorite comrade in arms for any welfare project for the Jawans' families. And during this time, he would ask and say, "Neena, I have this project for the welfare center. Will you please help me?"
Mrs. Neena Thapa, I called her my first lady as she was the wife of my first commanding officer, Kushal Singh Thapa. There was a dinner in Jammu in her temporary house and we were invited there, and I found her. She was again hosted and looked after everybody.
Maybe this was because of her background as a medical doctor, but her reaching out and her care for every individual was something that I always admired in my mother. Mother was asked by Mrs. Gyalup Thandup to help the Tibetan refugees who were crossing into India and had walked for months on end over the mountainous range, ranging from children to very old people, to help overcome the difficulties they had faced both medically and physically while crossing those mountains.
My father, Colonel Kushal Singh Thapa, and my mother, Dr. Neena Thapa, had an unusual quality. They could walk with kings and yet not lose the common touch. Posted to Jakarta, Indonesia as military, naval and air attaché in 1963. A beautiful country with people so friendly and welcoming. It is so much like India. When people learned that my mother was a doctor, she was asked by a small clinic in the vicinity to help out. This began her association with Kebonanas. The clinic was started in a pineapple garden. Kebonanas. Kebon meaning garden and ananas, pineapple. My mother was part compounder, part nurse and part physician. I learned to be an able assistant, having learned a smattering of Bahasa Indonesia. I was better at languages than Mom. Mom became a well-known and well-liked doctor in the region because of her empathy and expertise. On her travels around the world, she stopped over at Indonesia. We had been happy during our stay in Indonesia. Her first stop, of course, was Kebonanas. Mom was elated to see in the place of a small clinic a hospital of note. Her happiness knew no bounds.
Now the matron who had been with her came to visit her with her whole family of children, grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She was so happy to meet Mummy because she said it was thanks to her that she had such a large and happy family. And she also informed Mummy that one of her grandchildren was a doctor in the hospital. To Mummy, it was heartwarming to get this kind of a welcome, to make to feel as though she had never left.
My late brother Ramesh was a big help to my mother, particularly when she was alone in Dehradun, resolving all the matters relating to the house that we were staying in. And the importance that she gave to planning to the finest detail and writing down everything very, very meticulously was something my late brother Ramesh learnt from her, which stood him in great stead in his life.
So they were very attuned to each other, and they were they always supported each other in whatever they did. This carried on right till my father passed away. In fact, after he retired and came back from Asansol to Dehradun, they started the widow remarriage for the widows of 1965 and 71 operations, and also started education classes and vocational training for the widows and their dependents. My father always supported Mummy in whatever she did. Like she used to go to help General Bakshi go to the hills to give BCG injections. He encouraged her to work outside.
Her yearn for education also reflected in her wanting to help those children who wanted to be educated, and which made her strive towards wanting to provide an opportunity whereby these children could be educated.
Actually, Mr. J.P. Srivastava, Master Saab as we called him, was really responsible for taking the school right up to inter-college level. A lot of memories are there of Master Saab. He used to come in the mornings, he used to arrive by train with a big trunk which was filled with all the files, and he and Mummy used to sit and be signing files. And what was the very funny thing for us as children was that he'd never call Mummy by her name, but he'd always call her Mem Saab. But when he was talking about the school, he'd say a whole name which we all used to find very amusing, so we used to be laughing all the time because he used to say, Meena Thapa did this, and Meena Thapa did this. So we used to find it very amusing. But he was very dedicated, and he'd never stay the night. He'd finish all the signing, he'd have his lunch, he'd have his tea, and go back to Gorakhpur. I think it was all the hardships that they went through by traveling by train, by traveling by rickshaw, in the heat, going to Lucknow, going to Delhi to get the school recognized, to make it a partially funded institution because there was no funds available anywhere. So she requested the government to give the teachers their salary, and it became like a Kendra Vidyalaya. In the year 1981, the Panchayat from Chilbilwa came and met Mummy and requested her if she could start a school for the children in Chilbilwa, and they would give their Panchayat house for it. Initially, Mahinder Master had gone there to try and start it, but the conditions were very bad and he had to leave. Subsequently, since Seema was a B.Ed, she had done her B.Ed, so Master Saab asked her to go to Chilbilwa as the principal. She did a tremendous job there because it was quite hard the way she had to go because there was no transport. She had to take a train, walk the fields and go. But she went to each house and managed to get the children, and then she convinced some other housewives to do their B.Ed and told them that she would pay for them and that they must come back and teach in the school. She was very successful. She managed to take it up to class 12, and we have very good results. And the girls have done very well. A lot of them, quite a few of them, would like to come back.
हमारे जीवन पर उनका बहुत अधिक प्रभाव पड़ा है। मम्मी सत्य थी, कर्मनिष्ठ थी, अनुशासन प्रिय थी, समय का सदुपयोग करती थी, और उन्होंने हम लोगों को बड़ी शालीनता से अपने कार्य को पूरा करने के लिए भी सिखाया कि कैसे हम अपने जीवन को अच्छे से बना सकते हैं। हमारे फादर इन लॉ भी सत्यनिष्ठ, अनुशासन प्रिय और कर्मठ कर्मी हुई थी। आज दोनों परिवार के सभी सदस्यों में उनकी ऊर्जा प्रवाहित हो रही, उनकी आत्माओं की ऊर्जा प्रवाहित हो रही, और सभी सदस्य कुछ न कुछ अच्छे कार्य कर रहे हैं जो समाज हित के लिए इसकी से।
The little school that Mummy started under a tin shed today is the talk of the town. it has left such an impact on the entire Gorakhpur. People, children want to come to this school, and I think they are proud to step out as really tough and confident youngsters when they finish.
We had to go with my father, who was the president of the Ex-Service Worker Association, and he was handing over the presidentship, and the meeting was in Gorakhpur. So Solly and I escorted Dad and Mom, and that's where he got to know about the Nina Thapa school, and also with his wit and humor managed to get the teachers interested, and he himself got very interested in the school and hoped that he would be able to contribute somewhere to the school. When Solly passed away, Rajesh, his secretary, wanted to do something in remembrance of him. So in the main school, he asked me if he could start a small garden plot in Solly's name. So that's what we did. And subsequently, when Rajesh started the ITI, since we had the building, and he always felt that there should be some vocational training for the children after they finished inter. So he asked me if I would mind calling the ITI after Suhas.
Nina Thapa was an indomitable spirit. Yes. In that day and age, when women were really not given all that position, she was able to create a niche for herself and do good for the people around. They listened to her, they trusted her, and that was a unique attribute that she had.
Dr. Nina Thapa was a dynamic lady. She was very active, very social, and very innovative, and at the same time, she was always ready to help.
Her enduring legacy are her children, her grandchildren, and her great-granddaughter, and all others she worked with. Her generosity of spirit imbues them all. Her enduring attachment to the little tin roof school set up in the 1950s has been carried on by Neelam's and Solly's permanent support. Indeed, Nalini's choice of a career and her outstanding success as an educator and the founder of two fine schools owe greatly to her mother's example.
Never say you're tired, never say you're bored, and never lose the wonder of things around.